This is question 15 from section 1 of the 2004 BMAT, and in this question we're asked to find the main conclusion of the argument. So let's have a look at the question. We'll just remind ourselves the conclusion is often a solution to a problem, a reaction, or a should type statement. So if we look at the argument, it says that using animals for medical experiments has been criticised by animal rights campaigners as morally wrong. That's just reporting what other people say. And they say some animal rights campaigners use extreme tactics to gain attention. That's a fact, but it's just it's more about introducing the problem rather than introducing the issue than part of the writer's argument. What they're going to do as normal is when they report what other people say, they're going to disagree. So they say, but the campaigners are ignoring the benefits that medical advances have for animals themselves, and they give antibiotics as an example. So saying these benefits are important and the animal rights campaigners are ignoring them is giving the writer's opinion. And then they say, if the animal population benefits overall from experiments on a small number of animals, then those experiments are morally acceptable. So saying something's morally acceptable is giving an opinion again. So now typically comes the part where we try to identify the conclusion of this passage. I'm just going to give the warning that I don't think this question was... Well, there was a mistake in how this question was written. It's not very clear what the writer's conclusion is, as written. We'll just try and summarise what's here, and then we'll look at the options and see what might be going on. We can ignore this part because it's just sort of introducing the issue. So the main 2 points are the writer's saying that animal testing can have benefits for other animals, and they're giving a condition on which experiments can be morally acceptable. They're saying if they benefit the animal population overall, so basically that doesn't necessarily mean all animals, but at least many animals, and it only harms a small number, then those tests are morally acceptable. So let's have a look at the options, and we'll see if we can identify a conclusion in here. So A says that animal rights matter less than human rights. Well, is that something the writers said? No. So that can't be a conclusion. They haven't compared animal and human rights, they're only talking about animals. Then they say that, option B is animals benefit from animal testing. Is that something they've said? Yes. Is it something they're arguing towards? Probably not, because then this part would just be irrelevant. And they haven't exactly argued for this. They've kind of given an example of it. But it's not something they spent a lot of time on. So it seems more like, when you introduce a concrete example like antibiotics, it seems more like the kind of thing you're trying to use as a reason. Now it does seem that because they're disagreeing with animal rights campaigners who say animal testing is morally wrong, it seems like their conclusion, if it exists, should be something like, well, animal testing is okay, or it's sometimes okay. So this seems more like a reason than a conclusion, and in any case it's not officially meant to be the answer. C says all animal testing is morally justified. So this seems plausible because, as we said, the writer's disagreeing with people who say it's morally wrong. And they're giving a reason why it might be morally justified, which is that it might benefit all other animals. But the trouble is this word all. So they've said it's justified when it benefits the animal population overall. But that's not necessarily always going to be the case. It's more like they're saying it's acceptable in some conditions. So they probably, they aren't saying it's always justified. And also they're only talking about medical contexts, whereas there's other uses of animal testing that may or may not be morally justified. So it doesn't seem like they're saying C. Then D says that only animal testing that benefits animals is justified. So this does seem like something the writer might believe. Is it something they explicitly say? Well, what they say is, if the testing benefits other animals, then it's justified. That's not the same as saying only if it benefits other animals, then it's justified. It might be there are other things that would justify animal testing that the writer hasn't considered here. So it seems like this is sort of confusing if with only if, so it's kind of a red herring. However, this is intended to be the answer. We'll come back to it later. I think it's just a mistake in the wording of the passage. If we just rule out E quickly, E isn't said at all because they don't talk about non-medical research. So the example they give is medical, but it could be, given what they say, that if you find some non-medical benefit for other animals, then that would also justify the research. So this isn't the answer. So they do intend the answer to be D, and that would be fine if the last sentence was slightly changed, so it was saying it's only if animal testing benefits the overall population that it's justified. I think it's possible they intended you to read those experiments, so here I underline those tests, as meaning that it's only those tests that are justified, and all other tests are unjustified. So it's not explicitly said, but it could be that's what they intended. In any case, if you ruled out all the options, and you were trying to guess what they intended the answer to be, I think it would probably be a choice between C and D, because A and E obviously aren't said, B's are obviously meant as a reason. These are to do with what justifies animal testing, which we know is what the writer's arguing towards. And I suppose D seems more plausible than C, as at least something the writer believes, even if they don't say it explicitly, because this all makes it kind of too strong, makes it implausible. So D is probably the best guess, even if it looks like it's incorrect at first.